on another episode of Soothing Semantics. I'm your host, Rafi Pinsky. Make sure to subscribe, like, share, leave your comments. For any of your real estate needs, make sure to check out Rafi the Realtor on Instagram. Whether you're looking to buy, sell, rent, or invest, I'm happy to help you. Without further ado, today we have Jesse. He's a mechanical engineer, and he used to be homeless. So we're going to really dive into that, because anytime I hear a rags to riches story, I always get excited. So welcome to the show, bro. Thanks for coming. Appreciate you.
Nice to meet you. Thank you for having me, man.
Absolutely, bro. So give us a little bit of a history on what you were doing before you lost everything.
Just a quick backstory. Grew up in South Florida, born and raised. Immigrant parents from Haiti, and just normal childhood. Joined the Navy when I was 22. Just wanted to do something different, acquire some skills, and got out the Navy and just, fell on hard times, had conflicts with my brothers, was living with them at the time, and just a horrible headspace, just a lot of, negative mentality, just a poverty mindset, just constantly, seeking conflict with other people rather than making things happen for my own self. And, things just happened after that. And one conflict led to another. And next thing you know, I'm sleeping in my car, man.
Shit, dude. So, but how did you end up in a situation where you didn't have a place to go? Because you were living with your family at the time?
I was living with my brother. So
right.
A lot of it was pride. I'll admit, a lot of it was pride. I'm sure if I asked people in my network, hey, look, I need somewhere to stay, they would have taken me with open arms. But, as a man, you have a lot of pride, and you don't want it. That's not the type of phone call you want to be making to someone. So I just took it on the chin and decided I'm just going to, chart a path forward. And that's what happened. It was actually, if I'm being real with you, I always tell everyone this, like the first day was one of the happiest days of my life, because I knew from there forward, I had no more excuses. It was just all up to me. No more excuses. And it sounds weird, but it was like just a weight lifted off of my shoulders. Seriously.
You just knew at that point it was completely in your hands. Like if you didn't do anything about it, you would stay in the same place.
Exactly.
So before that, you kind of had a cushion or a reason to stay the same way.
Exactly. Lackadaisical mindset. You could even say just wasn't really stepping into my manhood. And I think when you step into manhood, it's when you understand that you control your destiny. Anything you want to happen, it's up to you. No one else. No more excuses. And that was like a transition phase,
So what were the next couple of months like? First off, how long were you in that position for?
I wasn't even there for that long, like a month, and then got back on my feet, started working, and actually got into crypto. Like it was like 2017 timeframe. So like got lucky, put some money in Ethereum, delved deep into crypto, and started to get back on my feet. But I was still not being productive in terms of how I can invest my money. So I was still, it's just, how when you get a little bit of success and you let it get to your head, you think you're responsible for something that for the most part is luck. Like, look, like you get in the market, you make a little bit of money. I was making decent money, and I was living off that high, man. And I still didn't learn my lesson. You get what I'm saying? And, but I was still being productive, learning and grinding. And yeah, there was another thing that I didn't mention that happened that really, like, it was like from that point forward, I decided to shift my mentality completely. And I went out one night and I got jumped by like 5 people, man. Like,
holy shit, dude. How'd that happen?
Yeah. I went out and, long story short, some people felt offended by whatever was happening. I guess this guy's girlfriend was talking to me, long story short, he wanted to fight me. And then he comes up and we start fighting, man. And it was like, after that, I was like, I'm too old to be doing this nonsense, man. I'm too old to be continuing this pattern of just recklessness. And then it was just a bad situation. So from there forward, I decided I can't ever have this happen again. And that was the biggest trigger, not even the homeless thing. That was the biggest trigger for me.
Interesting. Okay. So you just didn't want to be in that sort of environment where you'd get into fights or you'd have any of those sort of issues.
Exactly. Not in an environment where, not even in a, because the environment wasn't a bad environment. It was just, like normal nightlife environment. It's just not put myself in a situation where I'm not able to handle myself, and just not even be in that type of scenario where it's like I have to, worry about people trying to fight me because of just nonsense like that.
Gotcha. Okay. So now you've taken all of these bad experiences, you've switched your life around, you've switched your perspective, which is incredible. How did you get into mechanical engineering? How'd you find
Software
that field?
engineering, software
I'm
engineering.
sorry, software engineering, my bad.
Yeah. What it was is initially I wanted to get into neuroscience, right? So I've always been interested in psychology, and the next step is to learn what the mechanics are, what's causing the behavior. So neuroscience is delving deeper into the mind. So I was super interested in that. Went to school and decided, I don't think this is the path for me. I prefer something that honestly, like, I can make money quicker. So I went into the IT field, but there was always a level of insecurity where I was like, you self-doubt, where it's like, can I do this? Because software engineering it's said to be a difficult topic. I don't think it is, but it's something like people say, hey, it's difficult. So I was always kind of scared to delve into it. And once that thing happened, once I got like my perspective shifted, and I said, I'm just going to go towards what I think is the most difficult for me to achieve and just achieve it. So that was really what happened. I said, I'm going to be a software engineer. And from there forward, created a study plan, self-taught too, and just taught myself from beginning to now. There's no end. You continually learning, but to be productive enough to make it a career.
It's awesome, dude. Yeah, and it's also awesome when you see something through, when you think it's hard as shit because
Exactly.
everyone else thinks so, and then you end up giving it a shot and realizing it's not as hard as you thought it was. Yeah,
Exactly.
it's a very powerful feeling. So what do you do day to day in software engineering? What do you specifically do?
Mainly business logic issues, just making sure everything functions properly, make sure orders are processed, just making sure the front end looks nice and the back end works properly. That's the day to day, to be honest.
Gotcha, man. Okay, that's great.
Yep.
So now going forward, I know you mentioned you wanted to do content as well.
Right.
I know you want to do different reaction videos on different things. And
Yep,
when
yep.
we met, we were talking about the dating world, and we saw eye to eye on this for sure. So, what is your philosophy on what men are missing out on nowadays? Because the roles have really switched, where women are becoming so much more masculine to a large degree, and men as a result are becoming so much more feminine. So
Yep.
what do you think men are missing in the dating world nowadays?
I think men, for the most part, what's missing from men is honestly, like, a lot of people don't like to say it, but a lot of men lack accountability because it's not as easy. It's so much more competitive as a man because you're competing with other men and you're competing with women. And a lot of men, realistically, I like to coin it, a lot of men, I think a lot of it boils down to, the single motherhood thing that's happening, right? The single parent. Like, a lot of these guys have not had a father or a masculine male figure in their life to give them direction. So they're still stuck on the mode that I used to be in, right? Where it was like, you don't have accountability, you're blaming everyone else, you're not taking your destiny into your own hands. So it's difficult for them because the outcomes that they want, they can't get because they're not willing to compete for it, whatever it is. Like, the average guy is out of shape, he's not studying. Like, what is interesting about the average guy? Like, they're not doing anything to push themselves forward. And it's not an indictment on them. It's more of a, hey, we're looking at the scenario and you have to make yourself the highest level before you can command that respect,
Right, 100%. So why do you think that so many men lack this desire, though?
It could be a lot of things. I think a lot of it is, we live in a world where it's a lot of dopamine. People love this cheap dopamine. They're on social media all the time. They're watching porn constantly. It's almost like they're failing the test of delayed gratitude. They're failing the marshmallow test, right? It's like they can't delay gratification enough to see the results and the rewards because they want it quick. They want it. And if they don't get these results, they get frustrated and upset, and it's a cycle. it's a hedonic treadmill, right? They continually go into the cycle of they'll do cheap dopamine, then they'll go back to trying to work up a little bit of money, do some dead-end job, make a little bit of money, then go back out and pursue that cheap dopamine rather than making money, investing in yourself, saving it, and then seeing the rewards after that. So I think that's really what the biggest issue is, just the cheap dopamine, if we're being real, because I think we're the same humans as we've always been the same humans. What changed is the society and access to cheap hits of dopamine. That's it. And, you know, we could blame women, and a lot of it is to do with the feminism that's taking place now. A lot of it, you know, that's a big factor, but it's multifaceted. I'd say the biggest factor is the feminism and the way the culture shifted, but I like to focus on accountability, and you can't complain when the culture shifts. You have to adapt. So yeah.
Dude, and that was lots of bombs dropped in the last 2 minutes of that, man. And awesome. Just incredible. But you're very articulate, man. You speak very, very well.
Thank you.
Got to keep building that channel, bro. You have a lot to offer.
For sure.
Yeah, dude. Let's unpack some of that. I mean, the reality is, you know who Adam Sosnick is, and he just had the Fresh and Fit guys live. You should definitely listen to that if you haven't yet.
Yep, I've listened to it.
And they were talking about how feminism is not going anywhere. The idea that women are going to go back to 1950 and start, working from home, which I don't see it as a requirement. Everyone has their own individual needs. What I want in my relationship is I want my wife to have the option to choose whether she wants to work or not. And we might not be there in the beginning. She might need to work in the beginning. But once we start having a kid or two, I want her to have the freedom to choose whether she wants to be a stay-at-home or not. Exactly. My only thing is, if the kids are at school, I don't want her sitting on her ass doing nothing. That's not okay with me.
Exactly.
If she wants to have time to relax, feel free. But she, at the very least, needs to have something that interests her, because I think when a stay-at-home wife or mother is bored, that can lead to a lot of problems.
Idle hands.
Yeah, 100%. That can lead to a lot of issues. You know, if we decide to have 5 children, I'm sure she'll be pretty preoccupied. We'll see where that goes. What I think guys need to figure out is what they love to do or what they need to do. Sometimes the thing that makes you successful won't be something you absolutely love. For me, it is. For me, that's very important. For other people, they can find happiness in the work itself. You need to find something that drives you as a man, and you need to go after it every single day. Exactly. It's super important. And I think a lot of guys, before they find the thing they want to do, before they find the thing that they need to do, they have such a hard time kind of figuring out what that thing is. So many people are just crippled by, okay, there are 5 things that I can see myself doing, but I can't seem to put my foot down on one of those things or 2 of those things. And then once you find out what those 1 or 2 things are, now you have the challenge of seeing it through and actually doing it. That becomes the second very, very difficult thing. Exactly. So, and truthfully, man, in a way, it's almost exciting that so many guys don't want to go after the thing that they should, because it just makes it easier for guys like you and I. Yeah, man, it's just, and the further along we go in this sort of generation, the more it's going to
differentiate. It's going to make the ones who want to accomplish differentiate themselves from the ones who don't want to.
Sure. Yeah, it's just it's becoming less and less competitive. It's wild.
Yeah.
And you can't
sorry, continue.
You know, you can't change biology, dude. Women are going to want what they want, and men are going to want what they want, and the more we try to go in the opposite direction, the easier it's going to be for guys like us who are very ambitious to get what we want out of life. So I want things to change for people, because when I see a guy completely lost, it hurts, it sucks, because I want to help him, but at the same time, it's like, okay, man, well, if you're not going to grab the sandwich, there's more for me.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? There's only so much I can do for you. Yeah, man. So that's what it comes down.
It's a sink or swim type of thing, man. And you touched on a few things that that's my main idea as well, man. Like, the one thing I do want my woman to be free. Like, I want to give her that freedom to do what she wants to do. But I agree with you. I don't believe that any person who's a actualized, well-functioning human being should have no interest. Like, you should have something you're doing, especially if I'm giving you the freedom to be at home and, you're raising the children. It would be unproductive to not to not have any type of interest. You don't have anything you're interested in. Like, what are you doing? You know? And to me, it's like an IQ test. Like, that's one thing I like, a critique I have with a lot of these guys is they'll suggest that, and it's not, I'm not making an attack on anyone. It's just they'll say like certain women, like they just want a woman to not do anything. And I'm like, I do want a woman who is like articulate and educated, and I can have conversations with her. It's just I want her to understand her role as the feminine, and I'm the masculine. You know what I'm saying? So
Okay, so what is now that you mentioned that, what does that look like to you? Say in a relationship, whether that be a relationship or a marriage, what does that look like to you?
for me, it's complete submission. Like, my mentality is simple, and I tell every girl I mess with the same thing. Look, it's complete submission. Like, if I'm, this is the thought experiment I always put, not even a thought experiment, the thing I always pose every woman is, I'm like, the requirement for any man to be with any woman, if he's worth his salt, is he has to be willing to die for her. You get what I'm saying? Like, any guy has to be willing to die for his woman for her to respect him. So if your requirement is that you have to die, the least you can expect is some submission. You get what I'm saying? It's like, what's so hard of, if I have to die for you, why can't you submit to me?
You know
It's
what it comes down to quickly, because I don't want to kill your thought, because you're really hitting the nail on the head right now, but I just have to interject. First off, I believe there are a lot of men who are not truly willing to do that. I think they want to in theory, but when push comes to shove, they are not truly willing to. When a guy who's 5'10" like me meets a guy who's 6'5" in an alley, and that guy might try to hurt my woman, I will absolutely fight him with my bare hands. If it means I'm going to die, then so be it. Like, exactly. I know myself, and I'll do it if I have to.
You got the switch.
100%. And there are guys, and I think that a guy like that will see how serious I am, and he'll probably leave us alone because of that, without even having to do anything. There are men, on the other hand, that will genuinely be afraid not only to die, but to get hurt in the process.
I agree.
And as soon as there are women who their woman notices that, that's probably the end of the relationship. And if the relationship continues, it'll be a very, very, very bad relationship.
Contentious.
She'll never respect him again. Yeah. And I think that a guy who doesn't have the ability to put himself in harm's way radiates that to his woman without even saying it. And therefore it's a lot harder to demand respect and submission if you're not willing to do that.
Yep, I agree. 1000%. 1000%, man. It's one thing, like I'll notice, and I'm not even bragging, it's just when I hear guys complain about like having issues with their women submitting, and they complain that it's so difficult to get her to, follow their lead, I'm always like, I don't have that issue. I don't have contentious relationships with women. Like, women generally just think I'm very interesting, cool, and they feel safe around me. So you're correct, man. Most people, they've not seen any conflict in their life. They've not had any scenario where they've had to fight for their life and their security and safety. And it's true, man. Like, most women can sniff that out. Just like we as men, we can sniff it out. You get what I'm saying? Like, you can look at a guy in his face and you know what he's capable of. You already know what he's capable of.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right.
You walk in the room, there are certain dudes you walk in, you go, yep, that dude, don't mess with him. Like, you could tell this dude is not a person to mess with. And there's other dudes, it's like they'll even be, they'll have tattoos, they'll do the whole thing to make themselves look outwardly intimidating. And then you see him and it's like, this guy, no, like, it's like, you can tell, man, you can tell.
Absolutely. Crazy, absolutely. And I would say women, men know how to size other men up, especially if you're a guy who's been through some things. I would argue women are even better at it.
Oh yeah.
They just know, man. They just know.
Yeah, they can sniff it, man. They can sniff it out. They
really, yeah.
They're so socially calibrated. It's crazy, man. It's like they're so socially aware. And what I always think is, you got to remember, like, especially if it's an attractive woman, she's dealing with high quality dudes who are the real deal. So if you're not even on that level, it's gonna, like, she's gonna notice, because the same way you can watch, let's say you watch a basketball game with, you're watching a great team play, and then you go watch a high school game. You could tell the difference, even though you can't necessarily play at the level of the high schoolers, you can still appreciate the difference. You get what I'm saying? And that's what it is, man.
Especially because if a great analogy would be let's use, since we both like UFC, as far as I remember,
Yep.
say you are in a country like Dagestan, which has incredible fighters. If somebody walks into Dagestan and has no idea how to fight, but tries to copy everything they do, wear the same wrestling clothes, shave their mustache off, grow the beard, put on some sort of accent, they will know immediately before the guy gets on the mats that he's not about it. He's not legit.
Exactly.
So, and they'll test him. And in any scenario, if you're putting yourself in a position around people who are of a certain caliber of whatever that may be, fighting, speech, radio shows, a certain career, whatever the case may be, people in that space who are at a high level in that space are going to test you if you claim to be
Exactly.
a part of their group, right?
Yeah.
And so with women, if you're trying to claim you're a certain kind of guy, they're going to say, well, okay, that's a pretty big claim. Let me test you. Let me test you and see if you are who you say you are. And that's another thing. And that's why, shit testing is such a large component in dating, that a lot of guys just flies right over their head. They don't.
Yeah, they feel
they'll answer her seriously, and she's not serious. She's just trying to test you to see if you have anger issues, if you're not confident, if you're, overall not who you say you are, which is a very big thing. Which I just noticed so many guys don't realize these things. It's very funny.
It's like they'll go on a date with you, and it's just constant. Just they're trying to have fun. They're trying to see peek behind the curtains to see if you're stiff and you're just trying to present yourself as something you're not. They're gonna sniff it out, man. They're gonna immediately sniff it out. You might be. There are some people who are good enough that they can fake it, man. But they can't fake it for too long. They're gonna sniff it out, and it's just I'm always scared of faking it, man, because the fear of being like a fake person and being like exposed, it's just, to me, it's like I can't deal with that. So I present my real self. I tell it like it is. I express what I feel, and that's all I can do, man. And they respect it. They respect anyone who's honest because it exudes confidence. But if you're like, oh yeah, I could do this, I could do that, and they can sniff it out, man.
I completely agree.
Yeah,
I completely agree. Yeah, man. These are all amazing conversations. So, what do you mentioned something to me that's interesting. You mentioned to me that you're kind of seeing. I mean, maybe this is. We'll just talk about it. In your relationship or relationships, are you monogamous? Are you openly monogamous? Are you openly polyamorous? Are you not? Where do you kind of stand in that regard?
My mentality, how I deal with relationships, is I tell my women or woman, it's like simple as that. I don't have a set like I just do what makes me happy. It's simple as that. Like if it makes me happy to be with one woman, I see that as something I could do if that's what makes me happy. But if I'm with one woman and being with other women makes me happy, that's what I'm going to do. And I express that. Like, I don't lie. I tell every woman I mess with, it's the same thing. I do not lie to you. This is my mentality. But also, I don't want her to do the same thing. So it's a one-sided thing. I'm not going to lie as well. I'm going to be honest with it. And like, I don't have any issues as far as just being honest, because I'd rather tell you what it is up front than lie. So it's really, my approach to relationships is really just what it sounds cringy because it's like, people have overplayed the vibes and the feeling, but really it's just what I feel like doing, what makes me happy. Because I've had a scenario, man. I've been engaged, and I've had a scenario where I tried to do something to make someone else happy, even though I know it's like, I should probably not even be here. But you believe in this whole, like, you got to make it work, it's a love story, that type of nonsense. And it's like, no, man, like eventually it fails. So you just have to do what makes you happy. And if what makes you happy makes someone else happy, then you're congruent and it's consistent. That's what compatibility is. You being you and another person being them, and you guys are compatible. So of course there's compromise, but for the most part, it's just, I'm gonna do me, and if that makes you happy and you're okay with it, then all right, come on board. But It's really what it is, man, and that's how I express it.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. So, I mean, pretty much to unpack, to take everything you're saying, you at this current moment, you have a few queens in your life.
I do have, I have,
I understand where you're coming from.
Yeah.
I understand where you're coming from. And I think that's, I would probably say most guys, if they had the choice, would probably choose that, if we're being real.
Exactly.
If we're being real. If a girl, if most guys, if their wives say, hey, you know, I'd love it if you added some other females into the mix, I don't think they'd say, no, that's a horrible idea. I would never. You know, it's just how we are. It's just how
They'd be
we are.
eager to do it. They'd be like, look, it's what every guy wants. And it's if you can command that and you can express yourself properly to where the woman feels safe and comfortable with you doing that, then generally most women that I've been involved with, I express myself and the reaction is generally positive, more positive than I would expect. Because in your mind, it's like, this is like the no, this is a no-go zone. And as soon as you just start being real with yourself and your desires, it is what it is, man. They believe it.
Yeah, if you, obviously not everyone's going to be cool with it, but if you are, the key is being honest about it, though. The key is doing it and being straightforward about it as opposed to lying.
Exactly.
That's the worst thing. Because if you're open about it and the person knows it, then they can't say anything. You know,
Exactly.
you had that open and honest conversation. Okay, so are there any other things we covered? Let's say we covered homelessness. We covered how you moved away from your victim mindset and took accountability, and those were eye-opening moments for you. You switched to software engineering. We're talking about relationships. We're talking about male and female roles. Are there certain things that maybe you missed or wanted to touch up on?
I'd say we can start delving deeper into, you know, the dating landscape, what the ills are, what the pitfalls, what's causing it to be the way it is. You get what I'm saying? Like why is everyone so frustrated with the dating market as it is right now? You know, and we can touch into that. And
I got some good points. What do you got? Go first.
You know, and my opinions about just, you know, like you could say how the behavior of women and how like they view men and all of that. You know, it's like one thing I always say is I don't think the average woman, and it's something even today I was thinking, I don't think the average woman respects the average man.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
And it's a very complicated thing because realistically, the average man respects the average man. Like, you get what I'm saying? At a baseline level, even though we can agree, like, look, you know who's the real deal, you know who's faking it and who's not, you still have a level of awareness as a guy where we know the rules. Like if I'm walking across another guy in the street, we look at each other and let's say we're passing by each other, we both kind of maneuver a little bit to show that, hey, look, you can pass by. And there are certain rules.
Well, also because there's a threat of violence. See, Jordan Peterson talks about this.
Exactly.
We respect one another because even if a guy looks a lot more wimpy than I am, he might have a gun, he might be a complete psychopath.
Exactly.
I don't want problems. So naturally, we respect each other as men. As long as you don't bother me, I don't bother you, we go along with our business.
Exactly. There's a threat of violence because we know that, hey, look, even exactly like you said, the wimpiest guy might be capable of the most damage. You don't know. So it's like when we encounter another male, there are rules. And I feel like this push that a lot of women are doing for, you know, equality, it's like great equality, but you don't know the rules. So you want to be like men, but you also don't want to learn the rules. Like it's more often that I'll be walking across like on the street and like, let's say it's a woman coming towards me. Usually the woman won't move, like adjust herself. Like she'll just walk like straight into you. Right. And it's like men will generally like, we both will move out the way a little bit to show like, we're not trying to size each other up. It's like a show of respect. Like if a guy just walks straight into you, we both know it's like, yo, like you're going to turn around. Like what was that?
Right.
But women will just straight up like walk right into you, man. It's like, what is like, do you know the rules, man? Like what's happening?
I have to test that, by the way. It's interesting because I'm not cognizant of that. Come to think of it, like next time on the street, I'm going to see if I don't move out of the way, what will happen.
Yeah, man, I'm telling you. And it's like,
I think naturally though, I do it because of chivalry though. I feel like I probably move out of the way for her because it's like, you know, let me be nice. Let her have the street, you know?
Exactly.
I think that's kind of what happens and women expect it, which quite frankly, I don't really mind.
Yeah,
I don't have an issue with it.
That's how I feel. Generally, it's like, it's one of those things where you have to kind of, I'm not gonna lie, man, increasingly I've become more like, I'm just gonna mind my business. And because here's a question I always pose people, right? It's like, what would you say that the average man, right? We're talking about the average man a lot. would you say that generally all men in this society, we're accountable to women? Would you agree with that?
How do you mean exactly?
Like we all have a level of accountability towards women where, for example, let's say I'm walking on the street and I see a woman being
Valid.
accosted. I'm
Yes.
accountable to her and her safety. I'm accountable to her.
Yes.
And not only her, I'm accountable to, as a man, you're accountable to everyone in society, just random people. Like you have to be accountable.
You're expected to do something. At the same time, though, there's a different, there are circumstances where I'm not getting involved.
Yeah. It's becoming, yeah.
There are circumstances I'm not getting involved. If they're, I don't know, gang members shooting each other, I'm out. Like,
yeah,
you go
exactly,
deal with your business. I'm not gonna. You guys are being. If people are being morons,
let them
then
be.
I'm not. If two guys are fighting outside a bar, I'm good. I'm not getting
exactly.
If a guy's getting his ass kicked by 4 guys, yeah, I'll try to probably step in so this guy doesn't get his face completely, destroyed. Removed from his. But yeah, I agree with you. We are definitely. We are expected to protect women that have no connection to us whatsoever, for sure.
Exactly, right. So we could agree that we all have this level of accountability as men, at the very least, to just random women we don't even know.
But you know what, though? A lot of guys in this day and age, although they have accountability, won't step in when the time comes.
You don't think so? So let me ask you.
No, I think a lot of the time they wouldn't. I think a lot of the time they probably want to, would be too afraid to.
You don't think like let's say we do an experiment, like we get a woman and we get a guy and we're like, hey, scream at her as a social experiment. Do you not feel like the majority of people in that environment would step in and be like, hey, calm down, like,
yeah, they've done those before, so maybe, yeah,
right?
I would say, okay, maybe that's true.
So the next part of the question is, who are women accountable to? Are women at least accountable to men in society at all?
No, there's
no accountability.
No, but I don't think that was ever the case. I don't think they ever.
It's not. No. That, of course, it's never been the case.
To children. That's pretty much it, and maybe their parents at some point, but just their kids. Yeah,
they're accountable to children and generally people who may be more vulnerable than them, right? But and of course, it's always been like that. And I'm not making an indictment. I'm not attacking what it's been. It's just in the context of trying to equalize and diminish the significance and the role of men, you created a scenario where it's like it's making men more inclined to be unaccountable because, as you said, it's like as a guy in this modern society, you see a woman being screamed at or being attacked by her boyfriend, you step in, you get stabbed, she goes home with him, and you're also being told you're toxically like it's like they're attacking men, but still holding men to a standard. You get what I'm saying?
Oh, but that's why to an extent you have to punish that behavior. Meaning, if you want to be so independent, then go ahead and have fun. I'm not gonna give you your cake and eat it too, and you eat it too. So like that doesn't mean that I'm not gonna help a woman in need. That just means that, for example, if I see a woman who's very jacked and I see that she's at the gym and I see that she's normally very rude to men and is always never lets a guy hold the door open for her. She's always very I can do it myself. I see her trying to open a pickle jar and she's frustrated and she asks me to open it. I'm going to look her dead in the eyes and say, "Oh no, you got this, tough guy." That's what I say. That's what I say. Especially if I know that she's that kind of person. I'm like, "Oh, what's the matter? You can't open it?"
Exactly, man.
But of course I wouldn't do that to somebody who doesn't act that way, right?
That's exactly it, man.
It very much is situational. It depends on how the person is. So if you want your independence so badly, go ahead. You don't need me then.
Go have it.
If you're screaming from the rooftops that you don't need me to help you, then do your thing.
Go have it. That's how I feel too. It's like we all know there are certain women where you already know like you would protect her because like the way she carries herself, like if someone messes with her, it's not her fault. It's usually likely that there are certain women who just carry themselves with respect and you still stick up for them, right? But like you said, there are ones who are like they're aggressive and they generally have you could say a adversarial spirit towards men. They want to attack men. They want to compete with men. And it's like, okay, compete with men. Like, but don't expect men to step up and you know what I mean? Don't ask him to open the jar for you.
Oh yeah, I mean, yeah. If you keep throwing, paper mache at me, I love these analogies. You keep crumpling up things or like spitballs. You keep spinning it at me, and then You know, when someone knocks the straw out of your hand, you cry and you ask me for help. It's like, well, you've been spitting these spitballs at me the entire class. Like, you want me to help you out? I've been the one trying to knock the straw out of your hand as well.
Exactly, man.
So if at the end of the day, it's like you want to do what we want to do, you want to do what men do, congratulations. But
Exactly.
understand that I'm less inclined to help you because you want this independence so badly. You know,
That's
if you want to be like me, then go be like me. But then don't
exactly.
complain when it's not working out.
They view a lot of times, like, in my opinion, most of this backlash is the more equality that's happening, like the more they're experiencing what it's like to be a man, the more they're viewing it as oppression. You get what I'm saying? Because it's
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
we as men know what the reality is. It's a difficult.
Why do you want to do it so badly? It's not easy. Why just enjoy being a woman? Why do you want it so much?
Exactly.
It's not what it's cracked up to be. It's really
Exactly.
not. Don't get me wrong. I love being a guy.
It's
But
amazing. It's fun.
I love being a guy also because I'm willing to do the things to make me valuable and live a good life. But getting there is fucking hard. And it's like, do you really, why do you want that?
Yeah.
Like, if it's expected of us, we need to do it. They don't.
Yeah.
So they're chasing it so much. It usually doesn't bring them fulfillment. And then they finally realize when they're 42, you know, this really wasn't as exciting as I thought it would be.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
just like, dude, I could have told you that 10 years ago. You know what I mean?
Pretty much, man. Pretty much.
It's like, this is not that fun.
Yeah.
mean,
It's a challenge, man. And it's the grind. If you embrace it and you decide, hey, I got to get somewhere, for us, it's a means to an end. Like, we grind and we're like, hey, we got to get to an end point where we want to be at the top level and functioning at the highest capacity. For a lot of women, they just want to do it because they want to compete with men. So they're LARPing as men. They want to do their best impression of men, and then they get frustrated. And it's like, you're looking at the top 10% of men, looking at their outcomes and expecting that to be the reality for all men, when in the reality, most men have it horrible. It's not fun.
It's also that like you said, just to expand on what you're saying, our goals of getting there are different. Our goal of getting there is we're testosterone driven, we're hormonal. Our hormones, when I say hormonal, I mean we have the male hormone. We are driven to accomplish, hunt, succeed, gain. Our end goal for us is that power, right? Not in a bad way, but that power of being that man can do anything, right? 100%, the king of the castle. Most women that are working hard, they don't have that same desire to get to the top. And then when they do, they're like, what's the point? Because their reason for getting there isn't substantial enough for them to feel fulfilled at the end of it. That journey is so excruciating, and most of the time they don't even know why they're doing it.
It's a backlash towards men. It's a backlash. They're doing it because they want to, maybe someone told them along the lines, like, you're not as strong as a man, and they feel insecure about their position, and they want to compete with men. It's a backlash, and they realize it's empty once they get. Look, there's some women who are very productive, successful, and they can tap into that, man. But when they get there, a lot of them find that it's not all that it's cracked up to be. They're lonely, and they don't have the types of men they want, because they think that the guys who should be at their level, right? They're alpha CEO, like ladies, boss babes, they making millions, and they think a millionaire guy wants to deal with that. Like, why would he want to deal with that?
No, this doesn't make any sense. I like ambitious women. I like smart, capable women. I do find that attractive, not to the point where you put that in front of me.
Exactly.
If your business and job as a woman is more important than me, you are not the person for me. I'm more than happy with you, but becoming a doctor or a lawyer or whatever it is, I have a feeling I'm probably not going to end up marrying a doctor or lawyer, just because I want the girl to be my sidekick. I don't want it to be where she's so focused in her law that I barely see her, where she's just kind of another one of me. She's a Rafi 2.0 because her work is so important that nothing else matters. If I have that challenge, okay, she can tell me, hey, you work too hard. We have plenty of money. All the bills are paid. Let's take a little break. Let's take 5 days off. Go back to your work. I love that you're such a hard worker. I'm not trying to kill your dreams. I respect that you work so hard. That's why I married you. But I haven't gotten a chance to hang out with you in so long. Let's take some time off. Versus, we can't pay the bills. You need a new job. You need to figure out what we're going to do. We're going to be out on the street soon. Yeah. She's complaining that we don't spend enough time together. I can do that. But if I have to tell her that, she's not the right person for me.
Exactly.
I need a woman who will always put family before business.
It is what it is, man. You want one who plays the role, one who understands
Right.
as a feminine and you're the masculine, and there are requirements for you that you have to meet, and there are requirements for her. It becomes complicated when it's like she wants to meet your requirement. It's like, well, then who's going to meet the requirements for the feminine? Like, what's happening? Like, you want to compete with me? You're putting your job before, like, it's, and I think a lot of women, something that it frustrates me a lot is a lot of women, they interpret that as, oh, you want someone who you can control and someone who
Such
it's
a
like,
cop out.
no,
Such a
it's
cop out.
not. That's not
No.
what it is. It's not about control. It's about, I don't want to compete with someone who is supposed to be my partner. Like, it's not a competition. It's just women who, yeah.
No, go on. So you were in the.
Yeah, it's just women who understand that, hey, I want to play the role as someone who's going to support my family and build a family with a man. That's what generally guys who are at a higher level want. They have the money, they have the wealth. Now they're looking for someone who's wanting to build with them, not someone who wants to compete with them, like who's got the bigger business. No, it's out of control, man.
You're 100% right. It's very loosely thrown out there. Like, oh yeah, you just want someone you can control and blah blah blah. And it's like, no. I just don't want a headache. I'm
Exactly.
more than happy with you telling me if something's wrong. I'm more than happy with you sharing your opinion. Feel free. There's an extent to that. I don't need to hear your opinion every 5 seconds. I don't need to come home from work at 9:00 p.m. and have you bothering me about some dumb shit.
Exactly.
Some things are not worth arguing about.
Exactly.
You didn't like that I didn't call you at 2:00. I was supposed to call you at 2. I guess something came up. Okay, you tell me nicely. We sit down, we on the couch, or we have dinner. You say, hey babe, I was really expecting to hear from you at 2:00.
Exactly.
It'll go a lot longer than you were supposed to call me at 2:00. Calmly tell me you were disappointed, you missed me, you wanted to talk to me.
Exactly.
Then I'll give you a hug as opposed to trying to argue with you because there's pick your battles and be supportive. It goes a long way. People throw out these terms. One thing that really annoys me is like when I'll talk to people who got out of relationships. It happens on both sides, more so from women though, where they just throw it out. Oh, he was so toxic. It's like, well, you chose him, genius.
Exactly.
The apple doesn't fall far from the tree. You made the choice, especially when people go, they'll go into relationship after relationship, and the same thing happens. It's like, I think there's a common denominator here.
Exactly, it's you.
It's you moron. Like they have no ability to look in the mirror and realize that they're choosing people who are bad for them. They have no accountability whatsoever.
None.
And then they're bad mouthing that ex. So if I were to date you, the likelihood is if it does end, you're just not going to take any accountability.
Yeah, it's a preview. You're getting a preview. If she's doing it to him, yeah, it's going to happen to you.
There's so many stupid things. And then when a person dates a cheater, it's like, you really think that they're not going to do that to you too?
Yeah.
I can't believe that. It's crazy.
Yeah, look, man, it's a preview. If you get what, like, look, some women have bad exes, and look, it happens. But
yeah,
if she's like, this ex was bad and this, and at no point does she indicate any sort of accountability for her role in what happened, it's like, all right, like, come on, like, what did you do? Every ex was bad, but you're the perfect person,
right?
Like, come on, man. And it's a preview. She's gonna do it to you. And one thing I notice is you have to watch, and it's something that, look, when you're with a girl and everything is fun and everything is, you're having fun, like, it's hard to imagine her at her worst because you're getting the best parts of her. Like, she's calibrated with you, everything is good. You have to look at how she treats people when she doesn't like them, or how she plays. Look at how she plays. And if she's like shrewish and she's very just, like, some people, they don't have a line. They don't have a boundary. Just understand that's what's going to happen to you when she's frustrated with you. And
for sure, dude. Oh, for sure.
It's like, it's easy to look at it. Yeah.
I can relate to this. This is super accurate stuff. This is very, very accurate stuff.
You look at it and you go, oh, that's just what she's doing to them, but she loves me. She likes me. And it's like, okay, but when she doesn't like you, that's what's going to happen to you, because she's indicating how she plays.
Yep. That's what's crazy. People telling themselves all the time. It's wild.
Exactly, man. What is your personal philosophy on dating? Let me ask that, or what's happening in this landscape?
Like I mentioned earlier, women are becoming too masculine, men are becoming too feminine. What I think is going to happen, because this is the way the world works, is things are going to correct themselves. We're going to keep going down this rabbit hole. We might go down this rabbit hole for the next 30 years. I don't know how long it'll happen. What's going to happen is the countries that have this problem, and if this problem keeps getting worse, the countries are going to have tremendous problems. Like, I don't know if America will fall, but other empires have been around a lot longer than America, and they've fallen.
Exactly.
If America keeps going down this emotional rabbit hole where facts don't matter and it's all about how you feel, then we're going to create weaker and weaker generations to the point where no one is capable of any hardship, and then everything's going to crumble. America will just go to shit. The people with money and success will go elsewhere, and America will fall apart, and so will other Western countries. And then the Middle East will probably have a comeback. Eastern countries will have a comeback. And then, these cycles happen, but it'll lead to some sort of a correction where these issues will become so problematic that the stronger people will have to pick up the pieces again.
Yeah.
Right. And then,
oh no, sorry, continue.
And then we'll end up in a situation where we have economies that are extremely destroyed, and the strong, capable people will build the country up again. It might be called America. It might be called Foot Locker. We don't know, but it will. That's what'll happen. Things at some point always have to correct themselves.
There's always a correction.
There's always a correction. So eventually, people will realize, hey, we are idiots, and this was not the way to do it. And what will happen is, if it gets to the point where it's so bad, we're going to end up going back to our gender roles anyway. If America comes to a point where there's civil war and people are literally killing each other in the streets, then women will very quickly realize that this whole thing is ridiculous, and men will have to, as a result, become strong enough and capable enough, and the ones who don't will die. And there you go. Natural selection in its finest. Back to the gender roles, back to all the things, the way things should be. Might not go back to, the 50s, and I don't think it needs to, but it will go back to women being like, you know what? I'm tired of being this tough woman. I literally needed a guy to save my life in this crazy Armageddon we just had. And that's it. And honestly, dude, with a lot of this content that's come out, a lot of women are coming out of the woodwork saying like, yeah, this is all ridiculous. And they didn't want to do that until men stood up and said it. Because women don't like to go against public opinion. Women are naturally more politically correct, more agreeable. When you have guys like Fresh and Fit who have gotten so much hate and are still willing to say what they say, after a while, the women who agree with them are like, you know what? Let's give them. They got a point. Let's stick up for them because they're doing. They're saying, and that's happening a lot more now, dude. Like, it's becoming a lot more common.
Yeah, I agree, man. It's like, in my opinion, my outlook is not. I have a bleak outlook, man. I think it's gonna get worse. It's gonna continue to get worse, and you look at the technology coming out, the way that like you look at the younger generations, how they're addicted to, social media and the bad forms of it. Like, my outlook isn't the greatest, but look, America generally overcomes. So I do think we'll make it out of it. Just in general, society, like the people who are focused towards advancing civilization will make it. But I think we have a lot of tough times ahead, man, because they're like, for as many people who stick up and stand out, and that's why I even started my channel too. I watched a lot of these content creators grow, and then I was on the sidelines. I'd watch it and I'd have my own personal opinions, and I decided, look, man, I have to start speaking out. I have to start expressing myself. We need more people to put out content to combat this nonsense that's out there, because from the way it looks, or it looked before, it looked like there was consensus because not enough people were speaking out. There was a silent majority, you know what I mean? And that's really what it is. I think it's going to get worse before it gets better, but that's the good part, because tough times create strong men, and strong men create good times, and good times create weak men. You know the cycle. So it's
Yep. The saying is couldn't be more relevant now. Yep.
It is, man. It's like the way I view society too is, a lot of people complain, and we're in a victimhood based society where there's a noble victim, right? It's everyone is seeking the victim status because that's where you get status. That's the highest level you can achieve, is to be a victim. And then you have intersectionality. It's like, let me look at your victim card and how many boxes do you check off, and then that's when we lodge you in society. It's like, and the worst part is, like we talked about, the guys who don't complain decide to fulfill their biological and masculine imperative to be someone productive, successful. They're being criticized, and like they're being told they're worthless, they're toxically masculine, and all this bad stuff. So it's deterring a lot of men from even pursuing that path, because they're being told, hey, look, we're going to still hold you accountable because as a man, you need to achieve that. And then when you achieve it, we're going to criticize you. We're going to tell you you're the problem. You get what I'm saying?
You know what, though? This is all of this is one big shit test, though. All of it's one big shit test. You get me? Because it literally just filters out the people who are real. Meaning it filters the people who are really just don't care.
I got you.
You get me? So this is what it is. It's like the world is just one big shit test, and that's what's so nice about it in a way.
It is. I agree. Especially when it's like you'll hear women, they'll be like, yeah, I want a guy who's sensitive and into his feelings, and then meanwhile, it's like, that's not true. If you have any experience, that's not the reality of what they say compared to what they're attracted to and what they validate is not that. They want that classically masculine man who's willing to protect her, provide for her, and fulfill his role. Mm-hmm. They want that, but they'll shit test and be like, I want a guy who cries.
Yeah. And you'll have dudes who cry. It's such nonsense. It's crazy. Because it doesn't sound good to be honest about it. They don't, it doesn't sound.
They want to,
They want to deliver it in a way where people go, oh wow, that sounds lovely, but it's not reality.
If you knew what was really in their mind, they're scared that it would look too crazy. They're like, whoa, she's into some crazy stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But that's the beauty of like actually knowing what's behind the scenes,
Exactly.
So like you're not surprised. You're not surprised.
That's why they call it. That's why they call it a red pill, even though it's like the movement's under attack. That's why they call it that, because you're seeing the base reality, what it really is, from society to dating to finances to pretty much everything you've been told is there's a veneer, there's a curtain that's been put over your eyes, and once you pull it back and you see like, whoa, this is the reality, like this is what's really important, not the stuff they've been lying to me about. Then you go and you achieve it. You do what you got to do, or you could become a black pill and you just see it and you hate it, and it's like you have no impetus or initiative to do anything, and that's
not the answer. That's not, because you live in the world. You can't just hide from things. It doesn't work.
Can't run.
Agreed. Well, Mr. Jesse, sir, it has been a pleasure. I'm looking to becoming very good friends with you, man.
For sure,
man. I really like how you think, and definitely let's find a time to grab dinner, grab a drink.
Likewise.
We live in the same area, so let's definitely do it.
Yeah, it was definitely nice talking to you, man, and definitely thank you for the opportunity. Respect you and your channel, man. It's nice connecting with like-minded people who, we have to combat this nonsense that's being put out there and speak the truth, man. Thank you.
Absolutely, bro. It's a pleasure having you, man. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Ladies and gents, I hope you made it this far, and if you did, make sure to check out Jesse's channel, Minds Right, on YouTube, and your Instagram. I drop in the description. Like, subscribe, share, leave your comments. I want to hear what all of you think on all the topics we discussed. And again, for any of your real estate needs, make sure to reach out, and I'll be happy to assist you. This has been another episode of Soothing Semantics. Until next time, peace.